Anakin Skywalker is one of the greatest swordsmen that Star Wars has ever seen, and one of the greatest prodigies of a lightsaber in all of the Star Wars timeline. Some Jedi considered him on the same level as Mace Windu, after he defeated Dooku in Revenge of the Sith in single combat, as many of the Jedi considered Dooku and Windu as equals. Anakin Skywalker without a doubt is one of the greatest swordsmen who has ever been a part of the Jedi Order, the Chosen One. As the Clone Wars led him to the furthest reaches of the Republic and the Separatist territories, he was able to overcome some incredibly powerful enemies and situations. While his master chose negotiation and defense as a primary approach to conflict, and Dooku elected to take a far more elegant approach to lightsaber combat, what did Anakin primarily use in terms of confrontation? What was Anakin's chosen lightsaber style and method of combat, and exactly how did he use it to become one of the most dangerous Jedi Knights of his generation and of all time, in both terms of his combat prowess as well as sheer strength? Well, today, we will answer that question as we break down and analyze the lightsaber combat style of Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's chosen style revolved primarily around the use of Form 5, otherwise known as Djem, which was one of the most aggressive forms of lightsaber combat out of the 7. Djem was first pioneered by Sarisu veterans who had mastered the art of defense fully, but eventually grew weary of a Sarisu user's tendency to prolong a fight instead of finishing it as quickly as possible, viewing this as a major weakness. They agreed that Form 3 Sarisu was the strongest defensive form that they had created, but they also reached a consensus that it lacked offensive capabilities overall, and a Jedi did not have to extend a fight until an opponent wore themselves down in order to conquer them. Instead, they sought to create their own attacks and offensive maneuvers to outweigh the weaknesses of both Form 3 as well as Form 4. Form 4 being very acrobatic and offensive minded as well, but lacking many power strikes and a firm foundation. Form 5 though combined the ability to end a fight as early as possible instead of waiting for a time to strike with the defensive capabilities that Form 4 lacked. It should be noted that during Attack of the Clones, Anakin Skywalker's preferred lightsaber style was actually Form 4 Ataru, as he used his strength in the Force as well as his youth to perform great acrobatics. However, as the Clone Wars progressed, Anakin discovered that Form 4 was not enough. It should also be noted that initially, Form 4 was also the form that was originally practiced by Obi-Wan Kenobi and was mainly used by Qui-Gon Jinn, so it makes sense that this is the form that Anakin Skywalker would start with. However, after being defeated by Dooku, Anakin realized that he needed more, so he turned to the dueling-centric variant of Form 5, Djem. Djem was one of the most aggressive forms known to the Jedi Order, allowing a Jedi to jump into a confrontation and end it swiftly, while also maintaining a balanced defense. Form 5 style preached strong defense with an immediate counterattack, taking advantage of when an opponent's defenses was the weakest and continuing to wear them down over the course of a duel, which was more adept at overwhelming an opponent than Ataru for some avid users. This directly spoke to Anakin's style of combat and his ego as a young and brash Jedi Knight that had an affinity for tossing his own personal safety aside in favor of completing the mission. Anakin was headstrong and arrogant and was unafraid to dive headfirst into any fight, leading him to embrace Form 5 and become the master of not defense, but offense. When compared to Sarisu, it could be said that Sarisu allowed an enemy to wear themselves down, while Djem took the offense and wore the enemy down for a Jedi. Since Anakin largely saw himself as invincible, he was able to develop into one of the most talented offensive combatants of his entire generation, including Masters and Jedi Council members, able to overpower and overwhelm opponents swiftly and end fights incredibly quickly. His chosen form also didn't require nearly as much finesse or energy as something like Form 4 did, which focused on acrobatic maneuvers and swift strikes. The pioneers of Form 5 enjoyed Ataru's ability to overwhelm quickly, but cited its severe lack of defensive capabilities as one of its fatal flaws. And this was in large part due to flashy, broad motions over tight, controlled maneuvers. Ataru, which was mastered by the likes of Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn, was similarly meant to overwhelm an opponent and bring a quick end to any conflict. But this form required them to be fast and precise. They valued precision and speed, keeping an opponent's mind working on overdrive until they overpowered their defenses and defeated them utterly. This crippled their defensive capabilities, however, as they were so focused on offense. But Surisu was able to offer a strong defense by keeping an opponent controlled and keeping blade movements much shorter and well placed. Djem So, however, preached the value of strength and brute force, tiring an opponent by being so physically demanding that they simply lost the strength to fight. This was Anakin Skywalker. This, combined with the aggressive nature of Form 4, made Anakin nearly unstoppable in lightsaber combat. However, what made Anakin Skywalker truly dangerous as a lightsaber combatant was that he not only mastered Djem So, but he improved it. It has been stated that the major weakness of Djem So is a lack of mobility, something that Ataru and Surisu are actually quite good at. This is why Anakin had such a hard time against somebody like Dooku, who used Form 2 Makashi. He was so focused on breaking through him that the second that Dooku outmaneuvered him ever so slightly and tagged him with his lightsaber with finesse and precision, the duel was lost. Therefore, Anakin decided that he needed to make some tweaks to Form 5. That is where Anakin's former use of Ataru comes into play. As Anakin's lightsaber form has been described as mainly Djem So, the more aggressive variant of Form 5, smashing through an opponent. But because of simply Anakin's stamina, skill in the Force, and physical power, he was able to implement the greatest parts of Ataru, and therefore, Anakin Skywalker's version of Djem So was far more mobile than any other that used the form. This is ultimately how Anakin finally was able to defeat Dooku, who had previously been the superior lightsaber combatant. He paired the aggression of Ataru with the defense of Surisu and implemented his own strength in Form 5 to create the style that allowed him to be virtually unstoppable. For the duration of their relationship, Dooku's use of Makashi allowed him to capitalize on Anakin's aggression, redirecting it and taking advantage of Anakin's blind fury. Redirecting an attack is also a key attribute of Makashi. Dooku was able to use Anakin's hubris and overconfidence against him, maintaining his composure until he was ultimately able to subdue Anakin. After Anakin changed his form yet again and grew more powerful, becoming far more mobile, he was finally able to keep Dooku on the defensive for long enough to ultimately overpower the aging Sith Lord, and keep control of Djem So long enough and mobile enough to finally strike down his greatest teacher and enemy. We can see in the flashback in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that Anakin is beginning to toy with the likes of Djem So in Form 5, as he's highly aggressive and not very acrobatic at all, meaning that this is likely when Anakin began to grow fascinated with the form. It should also be stated that in Revenge of the Sith, in his duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker is by far and away the superior lightsaber duelist. However, he becomes frustrated when he cannot break through the defenses of his master in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and is therefore led into a maneuver that he was not ready for and led to his ultimate defeat. This does not mean though that Obi-Wan was better than Anakin. As I have stated before, Anakin Skywalker smashed through his opponents with precision and brute strength. Not only was he inherently better as a lightsaber duelist than nearly all of his opponents, but he was also far physically stronger. Anakin Skywalker in terms of skill with the blade is absolutely on par with Mace Windu during the events of Revenge of the Sith. He's one of the greatest lightsaber duelists that have ever lived, one of the most domineering, aggressive, fearsome, and consistent duelists. However, it's Obi-Wan's familiarity that ultimately led to Anakin being defeated. In the end though, the skill of Djem So, as perfected by Anakin Skywalker, should not be questioned in the slightest. Anakin was a domineering force of nature that could break down the defenses and offenses of nearly any opponent. He was truly a prodigy with the blade, and he is one of the greatest lightsaber duelists that we will ever see in the myth of Star Wars. As always, students of the Force, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber form in the comments down below. And as always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.